Fortune telling. Some people believe that all fate is decided by the shuffling of the cards. Do you mind shuffling the cards and deciding on our fate? It's a great responsibility.
I should say so. But...
Some people believe that fate is ruled by the zodiac and by the sign of the zodiac under which your birthday falls. Do you mind telling us when your birthday falls? Just the day and the month. I don't insist on the year.
June 8th.
June the 8th. Right, that's Gemini, isn't it? Right. Okay, in here I've got a book of birthdays. Would you hold on to it for a minute, please? I'm going to use both the cards and your birthday, but first of all, the cards. You're satisfied with your shuffle?
Yes, I am.
Right. I've got a very simple way of telling fortunes. Some are very complicated. They lay out cards for hours and hours. I just use a spell, a little bit of spelling. We're going to use the zodiac, Z-O-D-I-A-C, in order to find out our fate, F-A-T-E. And this is our zodiac card of fate. Have you looked for your birthday in that book yet?
No.
Will you do so now? Against each day in that book is written the lucky card for people born on that particular day. And a magician should be able to bring good luck when he wants it. Now, please remember that if we have good luck, that's my credit. If we have bad luck, he shuffled the cards. Have you found your birthday?
Yes, I have.
What was the card?
2 of diamonds.
It's our lucky day. Congratulations on your good fortune. Now, to do this trick, you need a birthday book. I don't quite know where you might get one. But this is from stationers, W.H. Smith. It is, in fact, about 30 years old, so this particular model is probably no longer available. But the sort of book they sell for people to make notes of the birthdays of their friends and relations. And against each day of the year, within this, I've written the name of various cards. And in the way it works, I've got the same cards always, say, from 1st to 10th, 11th to 20th, 21st to 30th. Same 10 cards repeated every month. So that if somebody gives me the date, the moment I get the date of within the month, I can tell what card it's going to be. Now, you may have your own system of mnemonics for going to the card. I've got my own little calculation, which I can do if I get fixed, but after you've been doing the trick for a while, you remember them anyway. What I do for the values, if it's an odd number, I add 2. So if it's the 1st of the month, it's a 3. If it's the 3rd of the month, it's a 5. Up to if it's a 9th of the month, it's a jack. If it's an even number, however, I subtract it from 10. So it's the 2nd, it's an 8. If it's the 4th, it's a 6. If it's the 6th, it's the 4th. If it's the 8th, it's the 2nd. If it's the 10th, then it's a 10. If it's the 20th, it's a 10. That doesn't cover the 31st. You don't want the 31st to be the same as the 1st of the next month, because very likely they'll appear on the same page. So any month that has 31 days, you need an extra 11th card. In my case, it's the King of Clubs for no particular good reason. I've mentioned the values. As far as the suits are concerned, I just had a sort of little mnemonic that if the value, the first consonant in the value is an S, then it's going to be a spade. If the first consonant is a dental, a T, then it's diamonds. If the first consonant is an aspirated consonant, like th, 3, or in theory 4, and I count jack as being an aspirate as well, in that case it's a heart. And if the first consonant is a k sound, as in queen or king, then it's a club. The only thing that doesn't cover is the 9, so because otherwise the clubs are rather short on representation, the 9, I've just made 9 of clubs. So that's my system, but obviously if you already know a system, you'll be better with the system you know. Provided you can go quickly from the date to the card, that's enough. Okay, I like to start with the birthday book inside, and I have carefully chosen wording for the introduction, and you'll see why as we go through the explanation. The explanation will be rather longer, perhaps, than the trick was, because basically this is a trick with outs. It's based on Di Vernon's trick that can't be explained, but made more controllable, programmer's approach. So I start by spreading the whole pack out and patting them, because later on I'll be looking for a particular card in the shuffled pack and I may need to delay things, so I like to establish this action earlier on. When I did it this time, I didn't need to repeat it. I found the card quickly, but I like to be on the safe side. And I say, fortune telling. Some people believe that all fate is decided by the shuffling of the cards. I've emphasized the word fate. Will you shuffle the cards and decide our fate? So, the cards are shuffled. Some people believe that fate is ruled by the zodiac, and the sign of the zodiac under which your birthday falls. And I'm emphasizing the word zodiac and birthday. Do you mind telling us when your birthday falls? Just the day and the month, I don't insist on the year.
June
and
8th.
June the 8th. Right, June the 8th. It helps to distract attention if you can then go in and mention the actual sign of the zodiac. But anyway, now I know 8. The card I want is the 2 of diamonds. However, I hand the book to him. I say, this is a book of birthdays. Would you like to hold on to it for a minute? I'm going to use both the cards and your birthday, but first the cards, and I take them back. Now, I'm looking for the 2 of diamonds. To find it quickly, a little trick that helps, both in this and, in fact, in the original Vernon's trick that can't be explained, is to try and make a little mental image of the index of the 2 of diamonds or whatever the card that you're looking for before you start looking through the pack, and somehow that seems to help you to find it quickly. Now, I spread fairly slowly. Hey, that's... It happens sometimes, so we'll deal with that out. You form a mental image and you spread slowly. And as you spread, you're spreading right the way up here, but until your hand comes to this end, probably you're just studying about the first dozen cards to see whether or not the card you want is there, a dozen or less from the top. When you've established that if you establish that it isn't there, then you go for the other end, a dozen or so from this end. And in either case, you then count to the nearest end. I find it easiest to count in 4s. So you see a card, skip 3, see the next card, skip 3, see the next card, and so on. But sometimes you're lucky, you spread, you needn't say anything, you can just pick up the spread and say, do you mind cutting the cards? And go straight into crossing the cut force, because you're going to distract attention from the cards now by talking about the birthday in the book and having the other spectator look up the birthday. Later on, you'll come back and show your 2 of diamonds. In fact, it depends rather on how you're sitting. If I'm sitting a wee bit more this way, then when I take the cards back, it's very easy to peek both top and bottom cards beforehand, in case you got the good luck case situation of the card being on very top or very bottom, and you needn't even bother to do the spread. You can go straight into the crossing the cut force. Now, that's the simplest possible case. Let's consider some of the more complicated cases. We've seen how, as you spread the cards, you search for the card first of all here, then there. Suppose you don't find it either place. Now you start looking through the central group. And here I've seen the card, it's by luck we've cut it accidentally plumb into the middle. So you can find the card now, and this is where its use of patting the cards to make the spread a bit wider helps to provide your delay. There's a second delay that can help. As I spread the cards, if I am not amazed by seeing the 2 of diamonds crop up immediately, I would murmur, without looking at this spectator, I hope you're satisfied with your shuffle, in the sort of tone of voice that doesn't provoke an answer. Because then, if I find difficulty in finding the cards, if the cards are sticky, and I do have to separate some cards in order to search, I can wait. Are you satisfied?
Yes, I am.
Right. You're putting the blame on him, which always helps. Anyway, sooner or later you find the card. Well, let's suppose it's about where it is now, which is to the right of the centre. I would then count again in fours to a card about at the centre. My key card would be the ace of spades. If it was to the left of the centre, I count in fours to an easily recognised card about the centre. This saves time later on. So now I either know its position from top or bottom or from a key card in the centre. If it's near the centre, I would then ask another spectator, someone sitting in between, probably straight ahead of me, will you separate the pack somewhere about the middle? And they do something like that. And you can see from your key card, and now adjust your count to your key card to know how far in this direction or that direction the chosen card is. So one way or another, you know the position of the chosen card. Now, how do you reveal it? This is why we emphasize those words, fate, zodiac, birthday. Fate spells with 4 letters, zodiac with 6 letters, birthday with 8 letters. So, leave out 2 and 3 for the moment, I'll come back to them. If it's fourth from the position, top or bottom, or from whether the spectator has split the pack, you spell fate and take either the last card or the next card. 6, you spell zodiac. 8, you spell birthday. 10, you spell fate and zodiac. 12 up, fate and birthday. 14, zodiac and birthday. 14 means that you've probably started counting from what wasn't in fact the nearest reference point, but in that sort of case it's easier to go on from where you are than to change tack in the middle of the trick. If you have an immense number, a trick I sometimes use in order to get rid of a few cards is to lay out 12 cards to represent the signs of the zodiac, or to spell out to one side whatever their birthday sign might be, Gemini or whatever. But by using those various combinations of the words that you've established, you can cover any series of numbers. Once you've got that learned, when I was practicing this, I had a whole stack of visiting cards with dates written on each of them. And I practiced the trick, and when I got to the appropriate point, I just cut and look in order to get the date that I was going to use for this particular rehearsal. Once you got used to them, then you know that you always have an out. Once you know that you can always have an out, you can start looking for even better outs, such as spelling their names, spelling their sign of the zodiac, so on and so forth. But practice the fate, zodiac, birthday first, so that you know you're always safe. You've always got something to fall back on. So you reveal the card. Oh, I didn't cover the case where it's at 2 or 3. You spell and then spell back, which is what, in fact, I did the first time. So if it's 2, I'd spell Z-O-D-I-A-C, zodiac, drop them back, now spell fate, F-A-T-E, and that would be the card number 2. If it had been card number 3, it would have been this one. Sometimes you find yourself dealing with the cards face up. In fact, don't worry about that, because if you're dealing with the cards face up, the cards going on the table are face up as well, and that's where people will look. If it's this card that you're after, then you can take it off immediately. If, on the other hand, it was the ace of diamonds and you were counting and you were spelling zodiac, you would spell Z-O-D-I-A-C. Either way, very few people will take in what this card was. And then you can go into your climax have the person look in the book, check up their birthday, build it up, show the card. That's it. Now, I've got the diamonds, ace through to 10 here, which are going to play a part, but a little bit later in the trick. First of all, I want to have a card chosen. Will you take a card, Mike?
Yes.
Any card, it doesn't matter which.
Yeah.
And you can show it around. And we'll put it back into the pack. You won't forget what your card was.
Nope.
The diamonds are going to play their part now as well. I'd like you to choose a number between 1 and 10. What would you like?
6.
6, okay. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 was your number. You're happy with 6?
Yes.
7, 8, 9, 10. Right. I'll cut the cards, and I'm going to cut a card out of the middle. What was the card you chose?
The Queen of Clubs.
That was one of the cards you chose, but in fact you also chose the 6 of diamonds. I think you better have a look at that card. Now, I designed this trick as a way of covering up my poor second deal. Roy Walton calls it a second card take. I call it my top glide. So, how could I keep attention not on my hands but on the cards that were coming face up onto the table? Well, originally when people do second deals, they always dealt them face down. So the first thing was to find an excuse for having the cards face up. So I had this idea of using a sequence of cards, because that will attract attention. So we've got the ace to 10 of diamonds prepared. You have a card chosen, and you control it and palm it in any way you choose. The way I've been doing it is to have the card chosen, return it, and use the fan steel, where I push it in, swivel it out in a clip in the little finger. I fan these, and then I can reach over here, pick up these cards, and fan them as well. Place them on top. Now I ask for the number between 1 and 10. In theory, it could be the numbers 1 and 10 as well, but it would make the final spread look worse. So I ask for one between 1 and 10. And because I have a poor second deal, while I'm asking this, I'm already prepared for my first second deal. My hand is resting like that, ready to get that second card out, however unwilling it may be. So let's suppose the number was 6. And I do the deal, making a bit of hand movement in placing the card down, and perhaps leaning forward and looking myself at the cards as they build up in the row across the table. 4, 5, then number 6, down. Genuine top deal. Depending upon the quality of the cards, sometimes I like to feel extra secure and have a chance to make sure of restarting the second deal successfully. So you're happy with the number 6?
Yes.
Yes? Good. 7, 8, 9, 10. There we've got the spread. Okay. The 6 is now here, the chosen card is there. The revelation I like to use, I double cut the chosen card to the bottom of the pack. There it is. Then a spin cut and take it halfway out with the thumb. Pause and ask the spectator what was the card they chose. They'll come back with the card they originally chose. But you can say that was one of the cards, but the other card you chose was the 6 of diamonds, which seems logical. And leave it to them to begin to wonder what on earth that card is doing there. And then you're straight into your denouement. Ideally, you try to get them to choose a black card, but it depends how much effort you're prepared to go to. Creating effects is difficult. As far as I'm concerned, nearly always I need a trigger. And most commonly, the trigger has been talking with other magicians. They may say something that starts you off, and the end result may be something totally different that they would never have dreamed of or even seen the connection with. But you still need the initial kick to get you going. You can get it from books. I think one of the things that I found very stimulating in those days was Howard Lyons' magazine, Ibidem or Ibidem, or however you choose to pronounce it, because it was almost like a little club where people would send in ideas that hadn't necessarily been fully developed, but nevertheless they were welcomed as ideas and appreciated by the other readers of the magazine, who would then pick them up and add their own little bit to it until they gradually evolved. And it was a very enjoyable magazine in that way. So that was one of the triggers for me. Also, I think you need ideas from other people, and you also need other people to show your ideas to. I've met one or two magicians over the years who worked almost entirely alone. And you'd find that perhaps half of the things that they produced were wonderful, completely offbeat, novel. The other half were so bad, you could hardly believe it. And I think it comes out of not having sufficient contact with somebody who knew them well enough to criticize. Even in some cases, their good ideas tended to be dead-end ideas, which were good ideas in themselves, but didn't actually lead forward to the generation of further ideas. So I think you do need the contact with other people. Just rethinking what I've said there, it doesn't always have to be contact with other people. I've sometimes been stimulated by looking at a note which I've made 20 years before, and coming back to that note, but with the advantage or disadvantage of a 20-year gap, has allowed me to see it from a different angle, and that has allowed me to take the original idea on. But you need something that is outside the state that you are in at this moment, whether it's yourself 20 years ago or whether it's somebody else that you're chatting to in a magic club or in the cafe on Saturday afternoon with the magician friends. I think you need it. Now, since I retired, I've been a bit short of money and I've been thinking of becoming a con man. Trouble is, I do really need a confederate who is very good at lying. Do you mind if I test your ability at lying?
Okay.
I got a little test here, which is made up like a set of cards. Now, what I'd like you to do is just to think of one of those cards, and you'll see they're in rows of 6. I'd like you to read out the colours of the cards in your row, as it might be red, 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 black, black, black. But when you come to the one that you're thinking of, lie about it. If it's red, say black. If it's black, say red. Don't say green, or I might detect the lie.
Okay.
Try that.
Black, black, red, 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 black.
I don't think you'd be very good confederate. You are lying on the 2 of clubs.
Wow.
Let's try you, Jean.
Okay. Anytime, are you ready?
Anytime, yeah.
Black, 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 red, black, black, red, red.
I think you're reading down the columns instead of across the rows.
Oh, I'm sorry. One of the...
Japanese.
Bring that in.
I feel so bad now.
I was going from the bottom up as well.
Oh, left to right.
Okay. Red, black, black, red, black, red.
You're a bit better liar than he is, but I'm afraid you were lying on the 5 of hearts, weren't you? Well, no. No candidates suitable so far. Sorry. Right. Now, this is a very special arrangement of the cards, and you'll be able to see it blown up on the video. But the arrangement is such that any pattern of reds and blacks in a row is not only in itself unique, but if you change the colours of one of the cards from red to black or from black to red, the result is unique. In other words, there are in fact just 48 cards here. I left out the aces. And there are 48 different patterns that could be arrived at by reciting the colours in the row and lying about one of them. So this is based on a mnemonic system. For each of those numbers, for each of those patterns, in fact, I first convert it into what computer people call octal. So black, black, red, red, black, red, I think of as 1, 1, 0, which in binary is 6, followed by 0, 1, 0, which in binary is 2. Octal simply means that you're taking the things in groups of 3, 2 to the 3 equals 8, hence octal. So I think of that as 6, 2. And for each different pattern, I've got a mnemonic to associate the resulting octal number with the appropriate card. There's quite a lot of labour initially, but the end result is that I've got a card trick which I can keep in my wallet and do whether my hands are sweaty or cold. And beyond that, there's a full description of the mnemonics that I use in the book that Stephen Minch wrote under the title of Pack of Lies. So that's the principle, and I think all I can do is to leave it there. Jean, would you like to take half the... Will you take them whether you like it or not, please? And will you shuffle the cards? And then take out any card you like and hand it to me.
Look at it?
Yes, look at it.
Okay.
Preferably remember it. Okay. And that goes back in the middle of my packet. Cut your cards. Yes, and complete the cut. And give them back. Thanks. Now I'm going to shuffle the packs together, which is a bit of waste of labour because immediately I'm going to cut them into 2 packets once more. Now, I'm going to take a chance that your card is in this packet. What was your card?
5 of spades.
These cards vanish. The 5 of spades rises from the back of the hand, and the rest of the pack is in my pocket. This is just an application of the old bluff pass, dressed up a bit. First of all, we establish the action for the bluff pass, riffle down in view, cut in the action that you're going to use for the bluff pass, and hand half the pack to be shuffled by the spectator. And you ask him to choose a card, remember it, give it to you. You put the card back in the middle of your packet, cake a break, ask him to cut his cards, you cut your cards. You take back the half pack. You shuffle them. If you've got a table, you can shuffle on the table. If you haven't got a table, you can shuffle them in the hands. Now, this is where you do the bluff pass for real, but you imitate as closely as you can the actions you used the first time round. Separate. In fact, you're only lifting away 1 card. And I'm going to take a chance that your card is in this packet, and you just put the whole of the rest of the pack away in your pocket. Now you act up the business of squaring the cards and ask him, what was your card?
Ace of clubs.
Ace of clubs. And now you simply push that card straight into the rear palm under the cover of apparently placing the half pack into this hand. The half pack apparently has vanished. Then you do the established move where you feed the rear palmed card into this hand and then push it up with a thumb. show that the card is alone, drop it on the table, reach into your pocket, pull out the whole pack, possibly a different stack pack. I don't know what you feel about newspapers these days. I find they're excellent for using for tearing up. It gives me a little bit of exercise, which I sadly lack these days. If I tear it like that now, it's in halves. If I tear it again, it's in quarters. If I tear it again, eighths. If I tear it yet again, great strength is required. Sixteenths. Sixteenths, I think. Not only is the man a magician, he can do sums. Now, I want you to imagine that we're tracking back in time. It's in sixteenths, but before it was in sixteenths, it was in eighths. And before it was in eighths, it was in quarters. And before it was in quarters, it was in half. And before it was in half, it was whole. Now, I developed this method of torn and restored newspaper because I wanted to get away from some of the standard methods in which there's an obvious moment at which the packet is turned over or the edges of the packet are carefully folded in. At some moment during the restoration, there tends to be a change from the natural torn edges of the packet into mysterious straight folds, which might, in the strict sense of the word, be magical, but usually indicates that a substitution has taken place. Moreover, I was entranced the first time I saw Ken Bowles' Ken tear performed, and the mechanics of that, which I won't go into, but they're such that torn edges continue to be seen as the restored paper is unfolded, always at the places where they naturally would occur. So it seems like a kind of slow motion restoration. This fascinated me, and I wanted to reproduce it. This is a pocket method. I first met the pocket methods. Al Koran had several torn and restored newspaper methods, and one of those is a pocket method. But I believe the original was an Al Baker method. Now, to do it, you need 2 newspapers, just 2 sheets each. So this and the next match. One will be torn, the other will be the restoration. In addition, an extra half sheet. Now, I'll put one of these to one side for the moment. The half sheet we tear further, and we tear roughly because the half sheet is going to provide additional torn edges which will hide the concealed packet during the restoration. So there's a nice jagged edge, number one. I want another nice jagged edge. That'll do. Bottom half and top left-hand corner of your extra page. Right. Keep those handy. Open the first page of your full newspaper. I find it is a good idea to jog the inner sheets to the right. And with your glue stick, make a sort of L down and half across, fold in, press down, end of that stage. Now fold this back again so that it a little more than overlaps the left edge. And fold it in half. Now we're going to make the pocket into which the torn pieces will fall during the course of the restoration. The pocket will be like this. Ignore that for the moment. So the torn edges will be at the top edge of the pocket. So you look at roughly where it lies and draw down, across, down, I put that down too quickly. There we've got the pocket with its top jagged edge. You fold again so that the pocket is filled in on the inside of this new fold, and remember our extra quarter page of torn cover that we produced was the top left-hand corner. We're now going to glue that onto the top left-hand corner of what we have here. It doesn't really matter how we do it. It's just for covering things during a restoration. But we put it on so that the right and lower edges overlap the straight folds, and they will conceal the straight folds during the restoration. Fold in again. We're nearly done on this packet. First 3 sheets here, pick them up and fold them in. This helps you find the right place during the restoration. Okay, there's our restoration packet. Now we're going to glue that onto the newspaper that we shall tear up. But we'll leave it there for the moment. Doesn't matter if it unfolds itself. This one you can prepare to some extent by putting folds in advance to make the tearing easier. If you're going to do that, don't put them in centrally. First fold a little below the centre. Second fold a little to the left of the centre. Third fold about the straight. Those are the lines along which you will try to tear. We're nearly there. You take this packet and you glue it onto the inside of the front page of the full newspaper here. with the folded corners bottom left. There we have them. It doesn't really matter if they overlap a little bit on the left. Your hands will cover that during the action of the torn and tear and restore. Right, we've done the job. Now, in real life, at this stage, you go off and wash your hands, because mucking about with this paper is a filthy business. I'll go straight on, because tearing it up is a pretty filthy business anyway. So, here we've got the newspaper. You show it, you open it to yourself, my view, packet on the left. Transfer one sheet to your left hand. Now you can turn and show the inside to the audience. Show the remaining pages, but keep a first finger in here. That helps find the right place to put your hand in the middle and start the tear. And you tear. And the rule of the tear is the packet always goes closest to the spectators. It's hidden by the torn edges. No need for you to conceal anything. So packet nearest to the spectators, and then you turn clockwise. And you start the next tear. And you try to make it as straight a tear as you can. I'll do it on the table so that you can see what should happen. Packet is in the right hand now. Packet nearest to the spectators. Turn clockwise. Tear. Packet closest to the spectators, turn clockwise. Tear. Packet closest to the spectators. It looks so messy that it must be genuine. Right, now you've done the tear. For the first time you turn anti-clockwise. And this is the present situation. You've got one torn piece of paper in front of the restoration packet. Then you've got the restoration packet, then you've got all the other pieces. If you bring your fingers up here, you can feel the thick folded edge of the restoration packet, and you can tuck your second finger into those three folded corners that I mentioned earlier on. Now you're ready to start the restore. At that stage, it's a good idea to move all of these torn pieces down a bit, particularly if there are a lot of bad tears and jagged edges. You've got torn edges here. This torn edge, in fact, is the one that you glued on at the front, and it's concealing the straight folded edges of the restoration packet. You let it open. It'll open under its own natural springiness of the restoration paper. You've gone from 16ths to 8ths. Because you offset those pages on the restoration packet when you are folding them up, if you now just put your fingers against here, they'll hold back the right side of the paper but release the left-hand side of the paper as it swings open. Now, remember those three folded corners. Release everything except them, and the front goes down. Go down to here. And now when you open the page, you've got this great big pocket which you should not miss when you are dropping the pieces in. And you can just repeat the showing as I did at the very beginning of the page, or here's a little touch which Michael Bailey suggested to me. When he comes to that stage, drops the pieces in, and carries on showing the paper as he does a complete turn. And now they're securely in the pocket, fold up, they're locked in the pocket, you can throw the paper off stage. I'm going to take out one card here. It's a very special card, but I should be able to find it easy because it's signed. Now, Gary, would you mind holding your hands like that? And we'll put this card in between, but don't let anybody see what it is. Now hold it safe. You can rest your hands on the table if you like, while we carry on. Now we're going to have some cards chosen. You help me?
I will.
Just say stop.
Stop.
Right, and you can remember that card, please.
I will.
Good. And Howie, you help me, please. Will you say stop?
Stop.
There. And will you remember that card? Okay, you haven't forgotten your card in the meantime. Right. Third card, but I'd like you actually to take your card right the way out of the pack.
Okay.
Right. And not only look at it, but I'd like you to write your initials on it, please.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody can see what this card is. Back into the middle of the pack. Now, these cards are going to travel in different mysterious ways. I was wondering whose card to start with, but your hand's getting tired yet. How long do you think you've been holding it? About a minute and a half? Something like that. Right. Well, one of the cards is going to travel in space over here. I think I've got it. Two of Hearts. Was that your card?
Mine.
That's your card. I've got rather too many things in this pocket. Right, I'll put this card with the first one, if you don't mind. Right. Now, no, I'll deal with your card last. Your card is also going to travel in space. And what was your card?
7 of spades.
The 7 of spades. And we'll put that with the others. Your card is going to travel in rather different fashion. I've sent those 2 cards ahead. Can I take them back? 7 of spades and 2 of hearts. But how long have you been holding it now? About 3 minutes?
2.5.
2.5, 3. Your card is going to travel in time. About 3 minutes ago, I took a signed card out of the pack and put it between his palms. Will you show us that card which I took out 3 minutes ago? And is that your signature? Now, I worked this trick out in 1948 when I was conscripted in the British Army, and I was overseas in Austria. The only book I had with me on magic was Expert Card Technique. There is a chapter in Expert Card Technique on the use of the stranger card, a card from a different pack, where you routine the trick in such a way that the back of the extra card never shows up. And that's what I'm using here. I've got a stranger 2 of hearts, a blue back card, extra in the red pack. Preparation, you get it on the or near the face of the red pack. You start by going through, you say you're going to take out 1 card. It should be easy to find it because it's a signed card, but this is just preparation for the climax. What you're looking for is the duplicate of the stranger card. Here we have it, the 2 of hearts, the red 2 of hearts. And you give that to the spectator who has either volunteered or has been co-opted into standing there. I didn't choose you, Howie, because you are well known for your patience. Right, now you're ready to have the cards chosen. Cut, keep a break, and do a standard riffle force. I like to do it to somebody on my left. They say stop, you ignore what they say, you cut at your break, show them the face of the stranger card. And as you return the upper packet to the lower packet, you do the standard Kelly placement move, overt master move, whatever it is being called this year. Okay, so far. Spectator on the right says stop. This is not a force. If you're worried about the angles on doing this move when you're facing to the right, you have the opportunity to turn back. You haven't forgotten your card in the meantime, and you just repeat the move. Now we've got both cards at the bottom. Third card is chosen and actually taken out. And you offer the spectator the pen so that it can be signed. And in the meantime, you cut the pack so that the stranger is in the middle. You fan them faces towards the spectators. You can see the backs. And you spot your stranger card. There's my stranger card. Make a note of where it is. If necessary, tighten up the fan again, but make sure you haven't forgotten where it is. You take back the signed card and you place it, in fact, above the stranger. Square up, take a break above the returned card, bring the set of cards to the top. Any method you like, cut, double cut, shuffle, whatever you have, it doesn't matter. Current position, signed chosen card, stranger card, freely chosen card. At this point, I like to turn to whoever has been holding the card between his palms, and in the meantime I can riffle off to make sure that I know exactly how many cards I'm going to deal with, and while talking to him I can then turn back, palm off 2 cards, go into my right pocket, pull out the inner card but turn it face out before you bring it out, because it's the stranger. That is agreed to be the first card. And then you say something, what I normally say is, I've got too many things in this pocket, and I put it back and I just exchange it for the other card that I palmed in, which is the signed card. And you slip this, and you slip it under the original card that you gave to the spectator who's holding the cards between his palms. Right, that's the first card. Other spectator has a card, and I'm using the standard palm to take it out of the other pocket. Nothing funny here. Take it out, ask what it is, show it, and put it on top. You've finished your work. Now you can go into the build-up, ask for the top card back, ask for the second card back, and now you build up the time travel. That's the latest presentation I've been playing around with quite lately. On the third, the signed card. And finally, it is revealed. Just to show I'm a magician. I'd like to try a little experiment. Do you take a few cards, and Howie, you have some too. And would you like some? Have some cards. And if you could have some cards. And I'll turn away just to make sure that you regard this as quite fair. While my back is turned, will you each shuffle your packets of cards, please? And then look at the top card, whichever it may happen to be. And try to remember it as well. And now, Stephen, will you help me? Will you gather the packets together in any order?
All right, done.
Right. And, oh, and give them a cut as well, please.
Yes.
Right. So the cards were shuffled and the cards were cut, and you're thinking of your cards, I hope. Somebody thinking of the Ace of Hearts. You're thinking of the Ace of Hearts. And I think the Three of Spades belongs to somebody. That's yours. Somebody's got another spade.
I do.
You've got another spade. And it's a spot card, is it?
Yes.
But fairly high spot card.
Yes.
Are you thinking of the 4 of clubs?
Absolutely.
Don't interrupt.
Sorry.
Yours the 10 of spades.
Absolutely.
The 10 of spades. Now, this is a trick that you can do very easily with any number of spectators. The more the merrier. All you need is to remember the top 6 cards of the pack, or to bring a known set to the top 6. For the sake of the explanation, I've brought ace, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 of hearts to the top. But if you have any mnemonic system, it's fairly simple. It's only for a short time. Just to remember 6 cards. The order doesn't matter. It's just the identity of the cards, and bring them to cut them to the top, and you're ready to go. And now, when you're introducing the trick, you can do a bit of a false shuffle. And now casualness that's even more casual, isn't it? Casualness is all. You give, without drawing attention to the fact, 6 cards to each spectator, but you just push them off roughly, as though it didn't matter. You can push off 3 and 3, you can push off 2 and 4, and you can carry on, as I say, as few or as many people as you like. And now you turn away for the explanation. It's probably best, I think, if the rest of the pack you get out of the way. It doesn't confuse the issue. Then you simply ask every spectator to pick up his packet and shuffle it, to look at the top card. Now, ideally, you have another spectator. In our case, it would have been a 5th spectator, and ask them to stand up and go round and gather the packets together. They will collect the packets. Again, the order doesn't matter. So, but I asked Steve, so they're collected together and they're cut. When people think back afterwards, they know that at some point they were shuffled and at some point they were cut, but probably their memory will not be at all clear as to when they were cut and when they were shuffled. And in particular, they won't realise that when we look through here, there are the 6 cards that I gave to the first spectator, and your shuffle has only changed the order of 2 of them, in fact. But nevertheless, whatever that order, the top one must be his card. And since you gave everybody the same number of cards, 6, from now on, 6 cards apart throughout the whole of the stack. So you can take this one out first and cut there. And now, if you just want to do it trouble-free, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Queen of Spades will be one of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 9 of Hearts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 of Spades. And that's it. But of course you can dress it up, and you saw the way in which I went to and fro. You don't have to apologise for not knowing who a particular card belongs to. You come out and authoritatively state that somebody is thinking of the 9 of Hearts. Who is the guilty party? And they confess, and then you carry on. So that's it. I'd like to try a little memory test with these 4 cards. Will you help me to start with, please? I'd like you to remember the first card. Okay?
All right.
And Steve, would you remember the next card?
I'll try.
Right. But don't forget it.
Okay.
Right. Howie, will you remember the next card?
I've got it.
You got it. And Gary, will you remember the last card?
Right.
Do you think you can now remember these cards from the top? Try calling them off.
Top one's blank.
Blank,
Second one I think is
blank,
blank.
blank,
Man,
blank. I think you better have a look at them. Turn them over. Four aces, 1 blank card. That's the initial position. And you start introduction. You say you've got these 4 cards and you count 1, 2, 3. The last 2 together inset so that you can take a break beneath them ready for a double lift. And now you make a bit out of this, of asking people to remember the cards. Double lift, show the card, turn over, put it at the bottom. Single lift, turn over, put it at the bottom. If you like, check back. Now you're going to do a double deal, as described in expert card technique. You do a push-out, as in a bottom deal, covered with the upper card. So there's the lower card, there's the upper card. And this is really very easy when you've got such a small packet as a mere 5 cards. They come out, they're registered against these fingers. You can get them even better registered together. You take them in the corner, and as you pull them out, you drag them against the left forefinger tip. And that keeps them squared up, and you turn them over. Flip back onto the bottom, and now a straight turn, show, onto the bottom. After that, you talk about asking them to remember the order, and then I just slide the card up and back into a rear palm, drop the cards on the table. You could use any palm you like, but that was the one that I got into the habit of using. And now I just leave it there while I ask the spectators to finish the trick for me. They turn over the cards, and at that point I usually step back, put my hands in my pockets and ditch the card. I was at, you could either call it a magician's get-together or a small convention. By small, I mean 30 to 40 people. And this was in Spain, near Madrid, at a place called Escorial, where the summer palace of the Spanish royal family was. And I was introduced to one man as a professional gambler, so I didn't inquire too closely. But Spanish life starts pretty late in the day. So about 3 o'clock in the morning, when they were all beginning to come to life, we were in a restaurant, and this man and I were swapping riffle-shuffle run-ups on the cloth of the restaurant table. And I did one which I hadn't done for a long time and got it right first time in the run-up. And his eyes opened in amazement and admiration, and he said to me, "You must have been very good once." This is a very old trick. It's a classic trick with 3 cups and a small ball. With 1 ball, it might seem sensible to use just 1 cup, but then there's only 1 trick you can do, which is when you make the ball vanish and go underneath the cup. If we use all 3 cups, there are so many more possibilities. We can make the ball go from the center to the cup on the left, and we can make it go from the left to the cup on the right in slow motion. We can even do it without using hands at all. Watch the ball. Straight through. Now, there are 2 things that help me do this. One is that the cups are made of a special material which allows solid objects to pass through the bottom of the cup. You can even make 1 cup pass through another. The other thing is that I use 3 balls. With 3 balls, there are many more possibilities. I can put a ball in each of the end cups, cover the center ball, take these balls invisibly and pass them through into the center. I explained how the trick was done, but you should always take a magician's explanations with a pinch of salt. Here's the salt. God bless Roy Benson. I used to have some amusing jokes to tell at this time, but I can't remember the punchlines anymore. But the man who sells me salt, can he sell salt? Now, the explanation of this is very simple. The salt's in the cup all along for the pour, and then for pouring the salt back from the newspaper into the cups, the salt is already between the pages of the newspaper. So here's the routine. Salt in the left cup, 2 other cups, each of which has a sponge ball within it. 1 sponge ball visible. You introduce the trick. 3 cups, and you stack them, but with the salt uppermost, of course. 1 ball. You talk about the fact that with just 1 ball, it might seem sensible to use just 1 cup. You place 1 cup down, it already has a ball beneath it. You vanish the ball. I use a thumb palm. It appears beneath the cup. And then just release it into the cup as we restack it on the bottom of the pile. End of the first phase. Second phase, if we have 3 cups, and now you place 1 cup face down on the right, the salt cup up in the middle, other cup down on the left. Each of these has a secret ball beneath it. We can make the ball go from the center to the cup on the left. Same move as before. Pick up the center cup. We've dropped the palmed ball back into the other cup, stack it underneath, leave them there. Pass the ball through this cup, Charlie Miller's move, where you just let it drop into your fingers. Lift the cup, show the ball. As people are looking at the ball, let the ball roll back into the cup, restack it beneath the other cups. I can even do it without hands. This time the outside cups are face up. The center cup is mouth down. This is still the salt cup. This has a secret ball beneath it. 1 ball on top, secret ball in here. It's gone through. Put those down on there. Sometimes it's necessary with a bit of bang. You need to get to know your cups here, or you may find that all the balls jam. And to some extent you can avoid this, repeating the move. Sometimes, in fact, by using larger balls, because then they don't go sideways, and if you do that sort of thing, 1 ball goes above the other ball, and they squash upward, up and down, rather than side by side. Now we do fake explanation. You show 1 cup empty. You talk about how things can pass through the cup, and you do the classical cup through cup move. I have sometimes done this with liquid instead of salt in the cups. Practice in the bathroom. And then, as an afterthought, you can show this cup empty as well. So, the fact that things can go through the bottom of the cups is part of the explanation. The other is that you use 3 balls. But with 3 balls, there are so many other things that we can do. And this is where I like to have the sponge balls. I put 1 ball in each of the end cups. Thumb palm pass. As I reach for the next ball, the thumb palm ball is dropped into the mouth up center cup. A lot of Europeans use this style of move, people like Vanish and so on. Now I've got a ball there. Into the end cups. This hand is truly empty, this hand just thumbs palms the ball. The last ball, and we drop it into the center cup as well as we pick up the last ball, we cover with the center cup. Invisible, invisible. Throw them under the center cup. There we've got the 3 balls together once more. And that's the end of the manipulation. And now you're just ready to go into the finale, because you've got the salt all ready here. And to control the pour, you hold the stack like this. Do you see how the waist of my thumb is over the lip of the cup? there's quite a small passage between, and I can control that. And I can make the salt pour slowly, fast, just as I wish. Not only that, but because it's a sort of slot rather than a hole, you can get quite a wide pour, so that even a small amount of salt looks more. The presentation of the salt pour I leave up to you. There are many standard gags that can be used in that place. Pour the salt in, unstack the cups in the front, fold up the paper complete with all the concealed salt within it, and pour it back into the cups, filling all three. And that's it.